good evening. Welcome to RedArmySocial, the last one of this season. Thank you for being with us. Joining us on the couch as usual, it's Marc it's Chris Lofthouse. Gents, it's that time of year. This will be the second season done and dusted for RedArmySocial. Third season, renewed next year, so get that in there early. I'm not sure about Chris yet though, because that poll is weighing heavily on Dave's mind.
Yeah,
it was like Brexit, that wasn't it?
I think I was the only one who said Chris in.
I said it's a good job we're not a democracy, and we're going to do a Brexit and just ignore the public vote. I'm staying. So.
Prime Minister Dave Roberts will decide that at some point. He's probably going to add a few dates to that. Gents, what we're going to do tonight, there's no point trying to review Rotherham. We've done it once. To be fair, we've done it twice this season. It's still just as disappointing. What I want to do is look back across the entire season. Courtney, bless her, who broke her thumb yesterday.
She was typing like that.
Closing the car door on her hand. Has sat today reluctantly, rather painfully, and written me 4 pages of notes. So it's only fair that we do that. First of all, I want to look at the summer transfers. There was a few ins, there was a few outs. But I just want to see now what your opinion is at the end of the season. Did we do the right thing? Did we let certain players go? Was it the right move? We've obviously discussed previously that we've not really replaced them. But now the season's done and dusted, and obviously Derby will come back to beat Leeds anyway in the playoffs. Hopefully, fingers crossed. People that have come in: Aidan Flint, Paddy McNair, Andy Lonergan, Jordan Hugill, Danny Bath, George Saville, Sam McQueen, Mo Besic. Was that enough? With the disappointment of last season in the playoffs, I suppose, to Aston Villa, were they enough high calibre players to get us across the line, Mark, this year round, or not?
Well, I mean, it shows now that they weren't, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, proof's in the pudding, isn't it?
Unfortunately, yeah, you're right. The proof's in the pudding. You know, look, some of them players on there are good players. Danny Bart was a miss for us, but bear in mind, he went back. Was it a month, 6 weeks later? We've got no centre half at the club because they're all injured.
I see what you mean there. I don't think he was necessarily a starter, but we missed him in terms of.
To be honest, though, he had 3 or 4 games on the bounce where he was really good, wasn't he? You know, but for me, look, if I was going to be overcritical, Mo Besic wasn't the same player that we had the year before. However, we jumped in with both feet. As did Pulis. Hugill plays because he's a Boro lad, wants to do really well. Again, probably style of play. I don't know. Didn't set the world on fire. I just think you're right. The proof's in the pudding. We didn't bring enough in, and I think Mikel said that this week when he said about recruitment side. You know, we should have brought more in, and obviously he had a chance to go to Frank Lampard's Derby, didn't he? You know, so there's no one probably more upset than him.
Chris, we brought Aidan Flint in. Aidan Flint is probably the most attacking, not only central defensive player, but out of everyone that we brought in, based on his record last season as the top scoring Championship defender. Paddy McNair, Andy Lonergan, who has he made 1 appearance for Boro? 1, maybe 2.
He played a couple of cup games in the on.
Yeah. Hugill, Danny Bath, George Saville, Sam McQueen, Mo Besic. Flint came with the tag of being a scoring defender. It's really not come off for him this season. He's
a set-piece player, isn't he? And it struck me that when Tony Pulis joined the club and we were talking about Pulis ball and the style of football that he plays, which, being completely honest and completely fair to him, the vast majority of what we expected we didn't see. But one of the things that you know him as a coach for is his players score goals from set pieces. It was the fella that used to throw in the mega long throw-ins for Rory Delap throwing in the throw-ins for Stoke. They'd always, and we saw a little bit of that. Peter Crouch getting on the end of every cross. Flint was kind of going to be our little bit of that, wasn't he? He was going to be our set piece player. And I don't think I ever once saw him attack a header. I never once saw him attack a corner. He'll stand on the centre spot or on the edge of the 6-yard box and move about a little bit and wait for the ball to come to him. He doesn't start outside the box and steam in and take players out, take the goal out, everything. He didn't do any of that.
And with that, the opportunities that he has had to score have been blazing, really. And he always crumbles to the floor and punches the air when he misses. But some of the attempts, these crosses that have found their way to his forehead this season, should have hit the back of the neck, Mark?
Yeah.
Look, don't get me started on... Well, look, I was here about 6 weeks ago and I said what I think about Aidan Flint. Aidan Flint's a really old-fashioned defender in my eyes, you know.
Which I think there's a place for.
Yeah, well, there is a place for, as long as you've got somebody with it who's a bit mobile next to you. He's a great header of the ball. He's a great defensive header of the ball. I mean, I watched him header the ball. Was it the second from last home game of the season? He headed the ball from our box and it went over the halfway line, you know. However, technically he's not a good footballer. So we certainly didn't bring him in for his technical ability on the ground. We, like you say, we brought him in because he scored, was it 9 or 10 goals at Bristol City the year before? But how many times have we seen that before in the Championship? It'll probably never happen again.
Yeah.
He was just in the right place at the right time, playing for a team what was riding on the crest of a wave. You know, he hasn't achieved that same, and bear in mind, he should do, because we've got better players putting better balls in the box. We've got our own Rory Delap in shot and throwing the ball miles into the front man, so it's just a little touch over. He just didn't put himself about. You know, sometimes, you know, it didn't look like I don't know whether the game passed him by technically or whether. I hate to say he doesn't look interested, because I don't think I've ever seen a footballer who doesn't look interested.
Yeah.
You know, that's just something fickle fans say, you know. But sometimes he just didn't look.
You want to see that? You want to see that desire to win the ball, don't you?
He just didn't look like on par with the rest of the team. Like he looked a bit out of sorts. Like whether he come back from injury quick, I don't know. Just for me, next year, he's probably one who's going to stay. Because I think on the season he's just had, no one will take a punt on him.
Yeah.
Because they'll look at him for the player that he is now.
Just on that, Joseph Coombs joined us. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Thanks for supporting us. He said, we have League One quality wingers and one fullback. It's no wonder we aren't in the playoffs. Couple that with the defensive manager, it equals no playoffs.
Yeah.
And then he's come back on and said, Flint reminds me of Kenneth Omeru.
Yeah.
And he goes on to say, he can defend well, but not very good at much else.
Yeah. Well, like
was he just lucky at Bristol then to score 9 or 10 goals in a season?
Look, mate, it happens all the time. Certainly in the Championship, generally in the Premier League, you get found out straight away. But in the Championship, you don't. You can ride a little bit, and that's what I think he done. He had a great season. Look, I hope next year I'm eating my words and he scores 15 goals from set pieces.
Yeah.
But they used him. Bristol City used him for his ability of heading the ball. They didn't use him for his football and prowess.
Yeah.
They used him for heading a ball defensively and offensively. So it paid off there. The Boro jumped in and paid a massive fee for a defender, really. And for me this season, it just hasn't paid off. And like I say, I think he'll be one of the players who will stay, because if you were another Championship side now, or no Premier League team would look at him, but another Championship side now, would you take a punt on him the season he's had? I don't think you would. You know, I don't think you would. So I think he'll be one who will stay next year.
Ibrahim Tanner's been on. Thanks for joining us, Ibrahim. He says, I think the season started off badly when we expected some exciting signings from the money that we'd brought in. We are going to come on to this very shortly. That never happened, and from then on, it rarely had the air of excitement. It's a fair point, that. We made mega bucks over the summer with 3 players that we allowed to leave. There was an expectation that the money that we'd taken from those sales was going to be reinvested in. There might be 1, maybe 2 big sort of signings come in. It never happened. The league started. We did well to a point. We very quickly got found out and crumbled away. Chris, do you agree with what Ibrahim's sort of pointing towards there?
Massively. I think the 3 main players, and I know exactly who you're talking about. You're talking about Traore, Bamford and Gibson.
It's like you've seen my notes.
It's in font 72 size.
Sorry.
You know, Gibson we maybe tried to replace with Flint as a like-for-like centre-back for centre-back. We never really replaced Traore. We had no... You know, we brought Bezic in, but Bezic spent more time in our half than the opposition's half throughout the season. So he wasn't, for me, an attacking midfielder. He's attacking minded because he wants to get the ball and run at them, but he's doing it in the wrong areas of the pitch, so he's not an attacking midfielder for me. And Bamford, we never replaced him. We replaced him with Jordan Hugill, who's a completely different type of player. You know, my missus is from Leeds, and her cousins, you know, always gave us stick when Middlesbrough and Leeds are playing. And when they signed Bamford, I said to them, "You've bought yourself a little Berbatov there, because he's got a fantastic touch, and he plays with that little bit of silk that we don't have, you know. And he's done all right. He's done all right. You know, how many has he scored this season? Is it 9 or 10? We could have done with another 9 or 10 goals in our you know, throughout the season that we've had.
Keep your questions, keep your comments, keep your remarks, anything you want. your gripes, your arguments, your frustrations with Chris because we voted for him to leave and he still hasn't. Keep them coming in. You've got us for an hour, if not slightly longer. It's your thoughts, it's our thoughts. Get them in. We want to discuss it. We want to have a rant.
Answer our
the
question
season
as
is
well.
done.
I'm going to come to that later on, but answer our question.
Who do you want next? Send it in. We'll discuss it. We'll
is
laugh at it. We'll agree with it. Moving on then, guys.
Anyone who says Rav, by the way, just
that's the
unfollow
ins
the
done.
page,
We need to go on to the outs. So Marvin Johnson, who couldn't do it for the Boro, but ended up being promoted with Sheffield United.
It's a funny old game, isn't it?
It's funny because he will come back to the Boro after being promoted because he was only on loan. Like we've said, Adama Traore went to Wolves for 18 million. There's questions over, can he do it in the Premier League? Are they about to release him, sell him, or try and offer him on loan
The thing
somewhere?
is, when I've seen him on Match of the Day, even the commentators know exactly what he's going to do and exactly what he's going to be like, but nobody can do anything to stop him. Is that not
the sign of a great player? They know exactly what he's going to do. No way to try and
no way to stop him. That's what I mean. His power and his pace aren't his problem. It is what's he going to do after he's beaten 4 players.
Yeah,
that's his problem.
Yeah.
But even those 4 players he's taken it past have no chance of catching him.
Yeah, his thought process, isn't it? He gets to, he gets from A to B, and then he's wondering about what he's going to do with C. That's the problem, and hopefully that. There's only so long you can say, well, he's an inexperienced player, he's a young lad.
Yeah.
If he doesn't find that C, he then just becomes another player who could have been great. You know what I mean? And the Boro have made a lot of money on him. So
well, I'm happy with that. Yeah, it's not as if we're missing a load of end product. Like I think we are with Bamford. I think what he brought to the team we're missing, and he's doing it for Leeds.
He's an exciting player as well, and he does excite fans. He got you on the edge of your seat, didn't he? So
Ben Gibson, obviously he's not done or not achieved anything really at Burnley this season. Is it a case of Sean Dyche has taken him over there as a bit of a project to try and develop him? Obviously, he put them out of, was it the Europa League earlier on?
Like it or not, they're a Premier League team. He was never going to walk into the starting 11. He was always going to be a not necessarily a bit part player, but he was never going to be guaranteed a first team spot.
But he's got chance there to develop if he stays.
Yeah, of course.
Is he going to want to stay, or does he want to be guaranteed football?
Well, I think you'll see more of him.
I
think you'll see more of him next season because I think one of their centre halves is knocking on a little bit, and I think that's what he was took there for, and I think because theoretically he could have went there and been loaned back to us. I don't think Sean Dyche likes us enough. Sean Dyche hates the Boro.
He's still bitter about Chesterfield.
Of course he is. Goes back to the Chesterfield game.
He's still shouting at the ref,
Yeah,
for that penalty.
He's a div.
Still shouting at the ref.
But he doesn't.
His being's perfectly circular as well.
Yeah, he doesn't like the Boro, and I think a bit of him thought, well, I can take a prize asset from the Boro.
Right.
That's what I think he thought. But for me, what I will disagree with, Chris said a bit of a like-for-like player with Flint. Ben Gibson could play football. He could pass a ball.
I mean, positionally.
Yeah, positionally spot on.
They're not a cookie cutter, but he's solely.
But if you're going to replace a defender for a defender, I mean, look, you could argue, and I know Phil's thoughts on Dale Fry, but Dale Fry is good with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
Probably better than he is with his head, if you want the truth. But if you're going to play a player like that, you can play what I call a lump. You can play a lump like Flint, and you need someone, a baller, next to him. We had it with Wheater and Huff. We had it with Woodgate, who was really good, wasn't he? Because Woodgate is a good footballer, good on-the-floor footballer. Does everything basic, by the way. Would kick the ball into row Z if he thought, if he was under pressure. Sometimes that's what, footballers need to do. But, yeah, I just think Ben Gibson, a bit of a waste for him, I think, this year. If you're not playing, ask for a loan move, He might not come back to Boro, but he could have went to Sheffield United, could have went to Norwich on loan. He's going to play.
To one of the top of the teams.
Yeah, he's going to play.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to sum it up in one sentence. I think if we'd kept those 3 players, would have at least made the playoffs.
Yeah, that's hold that thought. I want you to discuss that more. Hold that till I've got through these.
What, not Marvin Johnson?
We've spoken.
I liked him for all 3 games.
We've spoken briefly. Patrick Bamford there. So the other players to leave us over the course of the season: Julian Dessart went to KV Kordjovic.
Again, a bit of an unknown entity. We can't really say we miss him, and we didn't really know.
Yeah,
he might develop to be a worldie, but
Fabio left for Nantes for like 1 million.
Nonce.
Nantes.
I wasn't calling him there, by the way. That's the name of the club.
Antonio Barajan, Real Betis, 900,000. I don't know how. We've.
I almost offered to pay that myself. His throw-ins were terrible.
I mean, Fabio. Look,
we definitely miss him.
Of course, well,
passion.
certainly when
passion.
when we stumbled on the wing back.
Yeah.
You know, and again, we spoke 1,000 times about it. It's not that wasn't a Tony Pulis tactical move. We stumbled on it through injury to start playing wing backs. Fabio would have fitted straight in because he's a natural wing back.
Thomas Mejias, end of his contract.
Again, how many keepers have we got? We signed 3 this season, did we? 2.
And then
would you have kept him over bringing Lonergan in though?
Probably, yeah.
You know, see, Lonergan for me
would
just seems like an all.
Would you have kept Thomas Mejias over bringing Connor Ripley up, who you forgetting also left the club this season, permanent?
I would have kept Connor Ripley probably, but
I'd have kept at least one of them rather than bringing Lonergan in. But again, I mean, Mejias was 27, 28. He's going to want to be playing football by now, as is Connor Ripley. Whereas Andy Lonergan's thinking, what is he, 36, 37? He's probably happy to.
Do you know what the Lonergan deal just seems like an old boys thing, you know.
Yeah,
like Pulis has brought him in for the final fling,
and finally, there it's probably only fair that we mention it. Martin Craney left the club as well.
I don't really know what to say about that.
That's great. We can move on. So, Chris, at the time, looking back now,
what Martin Braithwaite? You haven't got him on the list there.
He'll come up later on.
I've seen your notes, haven't I?
Because we've got a January transfer window to discuss as well.
That's true. Yeah.
At the time, knowing who we've brought in, who's gone, was it a good transfer window for the Boro? I'm not talking about bringing money in, or for what we've seen on the pitch throughout the season. Looking back now, was it a good transfer window?
If you look at the list of players that have left and the list of players that have come in, the list of players that have come in are probably stronger, for me, I know you might disagree, that's obscene, than the list of players that have left. But they weren't like-for-like replacements. It was sell a striker, buy 2 midfielders in McNair and Saville. And it was, sell an attacking midfielder and bring in a 37-year-old goalkeeper. If we'd have brought in more like-for-like positional players, it would have been much, much better.
Which I believe Tony Pulis alluded to, that he tried to get them in, didn't he? And what Tony Pulis is really good at, and for those who read lots of blogs like me, it's a Tony Pulis trait. Like he says, I'm not having players come here because they want, they want to come to Middlesbrough because we have to put another knot on the contract thing and all that. That for me is an excuse. That for me is an excuse. Don't get me wrong. If someone's coming here and they want obscene money to live in Middlesbrough, they want obscene money to live in Yarm or Wynyard, in a big place out like that, train at one of the best facilities in the Championship, and be a professional in the country and be a professional footballer, then kick him on the bike. However, it's not all to do with that. Yeah. It was because he couldn't secure them. We're not silly. We see it 1,000 times. Them fans sat to the other side of that camera watching us tonight know their football. You can't pull the wool over their eyes when it comes to football. Mr. Gibson can't, and now that you're Mr. Pulis. And for me, Chris is absolutely bang on right. Didn't bring in like for like. We brought a centre-half. We got rid of a centre-half who could play football for an old-fashioned centre-half who can header a ball 200 yards. We got rid of a right winger, an exciting player, and brought Mo Besic in, who doesn't got our own half, on loan. We brought Saville in, who we've now turned into a defensive midfielder.
Saville and McNair, there's 2 examples. When they came in, you wouldn't have thought they're going to play well, they're going to fit in the squad, they're going to improve the first 11. And they've had a few good games. They're coming good, the pair of them.
Do you know what?
Who would you rather have, the pair of them, or would you rather have?
I'll just tell you a little story about McNair. I have a mate who plays up at Gisborough, and he has lots of friends who play for Children, who have just been unlucky enough to get into the National League. And they played Shildon, the Boro, in a pre-season friendly. So the Boro sent a team up to Shildon and a team somewhere else. McNair went up to Shildon, and all the Northern League players and all the people who went to watch them said McNair was like a Brazilian that night. He was absolutely outstanding. Where did they play him? In his natural position of a midfielder. He has never played for the first team, McNair, in his natural position. He's always played somewhere else. Pulis has shot him into a place because he needs to go.
There's always a utility player in every squad. Can you remember Neil Maddison?
Yeah.
When Neil Maddison came, he played, and he never had a bad game from my memory. And it was the year we went up. It was a really successful team. But he played anywhere he was asked.
I thought McNair, and I'll be interested, the lads and lasses who are watching tonight, I thought McNair finished the season really well.
Yeah.
And I think, he's one of the few who've got a good pat on the back and a bit of credibility.
Yeah.
Because I think if we'd have seen him earlier, maybe in his position, we might have done something different. But it's all ifs, buts and maybes, isn't it?
So did we hold out on some players that were going through a bit of a dip in form, maybe too long. Because after I think it was
because if you're talking about McNair, because we're talking about McNair at the time, if you're talking about him in particular, we've not played him in his natural position, as Mark said, so we're playing him at right back as a makeshift right back, and you're thinking, well, yeah, he's not a great
for
game,
a player
but
who featured so prominently during pre-season and has featured as an ever-present for his national team, man of the match plaudits as well as international plaudits, questions asked about how can he not get in the squad for Boro but can pull off man of the match performances at international level. Is it just a case Tony Pulis has brought players in and the players he's barring Aidan Flint and George Saville to a point? When you look at McNair, Lonergan, Hugill, Bath, McQueen and Besic, they weren't coming in to come straight into the team. They were backups. But this they were brought in as subs to a point.
He's brought players in to be a squad player, which is why I said the squad after the transfer window was probably stronger, because we brought players in every position. But we let players go that were pretty much nailed on first 11 starters. Yeah. That's madness. Yeah. It's just madness.
So moving on then, let's look at pre-season friendlies. I'm just going to run through them. We don't need to talk about them in any particular detail. Strum Graz won 1-0. They did, by the way. Spennymoor, Middlesbrough won 2-0. Middlesbrough then went on to beat SV Sandhausen. We were then beaten 2-1 by Augsburg. We were beaten 4-3 by Accrington Stanley. We were beaten by Accrington Stanley.
Hey!
We were beaten by Rochdale 3-2. We drew 0-0 with Sunderland, only 45 minutes played. And then we went on, and obviously that's when we knew that the season was really starting, because we beat Hartlepool 5-0 away. Going into the start of the season, obviously we drew 2-2 with Millwall. We then went on a run where out of 21 available points, we managed to grab 17, which I think is a quite remarkable return, to be fair. Yeah. We drew 3-3 with Notts County in the Carabao Cup. Notable wins there: 3-0 against Sheffield United, 2-0 Bristol City. We won there. And obviously Leeds Middlesbrough was the last game before the international break, was 0-0. Looking
at Sheffield United there in isolation, that was the home game, wasn't it, where we were 3-0 up after about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the last exciting football I remember seeing.
Yeah.
Through the whole season. And it wasn't even the whole game, it was 20 minutes, smash and grab and then sit back for 70.
Yeah. And I mean, even league position at this point, other than Millwall, the first game of the season where we drew, that's the only time we've been out of the top 6. And I think up to this point, I think we were second or third, if not top. I think when we played Leeds, was it not first v second?
I don't know. I can't remember.
It was
Leeds away,
Leeds, yeah. I'm sure it was first v second. But whoever won that game would have been clear by about a point with the games that were going on around it. But obviously it was a 0-0 draw. We then had the international break. There was then a run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 games. 50 points available. Took 19. 19 points. So from a returning 21 available, we took 17. 50 available, we didn't even take half. That's when we really started to struggle. Is that? Would you say that's when we were?
We were still up there though.
So if you are, and I know Phil's going to come on to it, and you've already alluded to it. If you are Braithwaite's agent now, that's your selling point, isn't it? Because when he was in the starting 11, and let's be honest, against Millwall he was excellent. And the home games, I think it was the first 3 home games he played. I think the first he was behind the striker, then they moved him out to the right, I think. But he was excellent. He was excellent.
I was talking to him today.
He then drops out of the team in the international break. There is when he says he wants to leave.
Yeah, he goes a bit tits up.
And then it went all pear-shaped, didn't it?
You can say tits.
And there's no,
have you got a quack?
there's no real notable games. Like, Norwich beat us 1-0. We beat Bolton 2-0. We beat Ipswich 2-0. Teams that are way down the league. We drew with Derby 1-1. We beat Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup there 1-0. We beat Wigan 2-0. We got pumped by Aston Villa 3-0. There's no. It's not like we've won a game there 3 or 4-0.
I was just thinking that.
Most notable games there is we've either beaten a bottom of the league team 2-0, or we've been hammered by a top of the league team 3-0.
How many times over the course of this season and last season, not just this season, for as long as I can remember, have we sat here and said and heard from the players as well? You know, it's not clicking. You know, it's fine margins. All we need is just something to fall into place, and everything will be right. It's never happened.
Yeah,
we've not gone out and smashed anyone.
There's 3 words for it. I said it on the last show. I said it on Thursday night. There's 3 words for it.
Go on then.
Style of play.
Yeah.
Style of play. They found us out straight away, you know.
I thought you were going to say good evening, Michelle.
Which we haven't. We haven't said that for ages, have we?
Do you know, it's because I don't even know if she's watching because we're on bloody YouTube and not Facebook.
Well, if you are watching, good evening, Michelle.
Good evening.
So out of that international break to the Christmas run in there, there's what's for the 6 games. You know, Middlesbrough Swansea 0-0, Hull Middlesbrough 1-1, Derby Middlesbrough 1-1, Stoke Middlesbrough 0-0, Preston North End Middlesbrough 1-1, Middlesbrough Blackburn 1-1. These are the games that we've alluded to all season where we are going to come back and remember that point or those 2 points dropped against these sorts of teams. We didn't realise it was going to be 1 point come the end of the season. But people had a feeling back then that drawing 0-0 at home against Rotherham 49 crosses was eventually going to come back and bite us in the backside. And we knew this before Christmas.
I was just going to say, without pointing the finger at anyone in particular, and I know I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with Britt Assombalonga this season. I'm not pointing my finger at him individually, but if we'd have had a better final third, better strike force, whether it's him, whether it's Hugill, whether it's Fletcher maybe given the chance to come good a bit earlier in the season, we'd have scored a couple more goals. We'd have won a couple more points. And that's all it comes down to.
Switch camera.
Well, yeah, look, you're bang on right. I mean, for me, I hate to say it, but it's you're blaming players there and saying that Assombalonga could have done a bit better. I go back to style of play, mate.
I totally agree with you, but how many chances have we seen? Well, I'm going to say Britt Assombalonga go through 1-on-1, and he's had the chance to score and he hasn't. The style of play is still giving him that chance.
And it's great actually because that's the point I've tried to make all season.
Rotherham last game of the season,
totally
he goes
agree.
clean through, it's a corner flag.
And I'm going to use it again, this Rotherham 49 crosses.
It is a both, I think, it is a both.
Yeah, but sorry mate, sorry, cut across. Just while we're on that point, what I mean is, Britt Assombalonga might get 3 chances playing the style of play that we played. If he skies 2 of them, it's all we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
If we play it in an offensive manner, which he is used to, and by the way, we always croak back to, do you know how many goals he scored for Forest? Well, look how Forest played most of that season. They played most of that season as 4-4-2 with 2 up top, or with wing backs with 2 up top, because they went for it. And don't get me wrong, they lost some games heavily, but he always scored, Britt Assombalonga, and that's what got him his big move to the Boro. But he would have 10 chances, Phil, or 15 chances. So instead of us saying he's missed 2 out of the 3 chances and he's hit the corner flag, we'd have been saying he's had 15 shots at goals there, and he scored 3. Or he scored 2.
How many chances he had to score this season when he's had these one-on-ones? When he's taken an extra touch that was unnecessary, where he's tried to take on an extra player. I totally agree with what you're saying. However, he's a professional footballer who knows what it is to score.
Oh, yeah.
Who has been taught all of his professional life, since he was a kid, how to score and how not to score. For a player to come in and be given these chances, specifically the one-on-ones that he's had, and not be able to put them away, how can we then sit there and say it's the system? That, for me, is down to individual decision-making.
Well, I think it is both. I agree with what you're saying.
It is, mate, on the odd side. But what I would say is, and we've mentioned it loads of times on this show, Britt is a confidence player, and he is a confidence. It shows that.
Do you know what? Yeah.
Last two games of the season, he had 2 penalties and put them away superbly. We all know that penalty, what nearly went over the stand. Can you remember? And then to the point where he was smiling and rolling his head because
That's what I was going to say.
He was a player then playing total devoid of confidence.
I'm not sure who it was. It might have been Adam Clayton. He was interviewed after one of the last home games of the season, and he said they'd mentioned Britt, and I think it was another chance squandered. And he said, "Look, you can't doubt his confidence because when he does miss, he smiles and he laughs and he has a bit of a shake of his head to himself. His head doesn't go down. He's waiting for the next chance, and I can't knock him for that.
No.
Yeah, that's what you want to see, you know, but." there's only so many times.
The big drama is the game. We've said it 1,000 times. I hate to say it because it's not just Tony Pulis who's played this style of football. You know, we have been a negative club for nigh on 10 years.
But that's what I mean, though, because, and this is why all season I've said, we cannot forget that Karanka played a very similar system. Nobody whinged and bitched and moaned at Karanka's system. We were waiting 89 minutes before we nicked it a goal at the end, and there's no way that we knew
That's
it was
exciting,
coming.
though, isn't it?
You can go right
But we
back.
didn't know it was coming.
Yeah,
did
You
we?
can go right back to Steve McLaren, mate, and he used to do exactly the same.
So
That man.
these goals,
That man there.
I think we went 2 or 3 home games where we scored within the opening 2 or 3 minutes. So fans would have been happier to not score that early and score in the 89th minute would have been a much better day.
No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying would have been better if we'd scored 4. But there's
Of
no
course
chance
it
of
would.
us. But there's no chance of us scoring
I
4
think
with the system and the players we've got.
These lads are professional athletes. If they can't play offensive football for 90 minutes, 2 teams what we watch come and play, the Boxing Day game, they were Sheffield Wednesday. They were at us from the start till the 90th minute. They didn't sit back when they got the goal. Norwich at home. Norwich in the 93rd minute were still trying to score against us. Leeds were still trying to score against us away from home.
99th minute or 97th minute.
We go goal ahead. Our 2 wing backs become the extra 2 defenders, and Howson and Saville never go across the halfway line.
Gents, people have come to us. I'm going to go through
I'm
some of these comments.
Oh, yeah.
People have found us, which is fantastic because we're on YouTube, which isn't our normal.
Good evening, everybody.
A few issues with the Facebook page and live
Good evening,
videos,
Michelle.
So we're on YouTube for the foreseeable. Basically, Joseph Coombs says Houghton for next manager. Then he says, is Gusted the worst buy we've ever made? No, we bought Donguk Lee. Alan White.
He made a couple of million quid in shirt sales. So
Yeah.
Alan
Michael
White,
Ricketts a long time ago.
Alan White says,
how did he play for England?
could we tempt David Moyes? He's not on our list, but we can add that to it.
I think he's
We'll talk
probably
about
gone
it
for the
later
Scotland
on.
job, isn't he?
Ibrahim Tanner says, I think Pulis was sold short in the deals we pushed through. He was too cautious once we knew what we had. It was boring and safe. Again, I think that's another great point by Ibrahim tonight. Well, wait there, send them through. Let me get through the rest of these first. Bowser and Bevington must take the majority of the blame for the signings. Michael Reisger for next manager, Reisger.
Michael Reisiger.
Is he coaching? I didn't even know he was
God
coaching.
knows, that's Joseph Coombs again. Ibrahim Tanner says...
Remember when he came to Middlesbrough and we thought, he's ex-Barcelona, he's going to be great.
Well,
and,
Joe, little
just
thing
a
there,
payday, wasn't it?
Little thing there, mate. He was Barcelona's player of the year when we bought him. Barcelona's player of the year. We brought him here and he didn't have a good start.
But what you've got to realise is, Barcelona know a player. And this is going way back. You know, we like going back. They wouldn't let him go. Yeah. They wouldn't have let him go unless they were comfortable letting him go. You know, it's not as if they were thinking, I think
that was when we were splashing the cash as well, mate.
Probably,
So
yeah.
Ibrahim Tanner says Moyes might be a good shout. That's backed up by Dion Dickerson says Moyes would be unreal. Some guy simply called Legend, so it's obviously not you.
Not me in it. Is it me? Have they seen me on the screen?
Bring Aitor back home,
Jamie
say
Cook.
no more. Coombs has come back on and says Moyes has no championship experience and he's a bit past it. Tanner's come back on and said Moyes had Preston North End in the championship playoffs and spent nout. Coombs has come back and said that was a long time ago. Reisiger is managing young Ajax and doing well.
Must be the is that their B team or their youth
Don't
team?
know, Young Ajax, whoever that is.
Hey, if we're looking at managers that are coaching youth teams, Leo.
Courtney's just going to give me your phone so we can get more comments. Right, who have we got here? So, why not try? Andrew Hamilton says, why not try Jose Mourinho? Obviously, he's a free agent at the minute.
This is my.
Hold on, me watching. I mean, I see you, son.
This is, and I'm not for a minute saying we can tempt Jose into Middlesbrough, unless he likes a Manjaros, you know. But
he's probably the only one who hasn't been.
They've not given us one. Stop plugging
I know,
them.
yeah, we
We're
plug them
not
every
going to
week.
get one.
Every week
It's
we
not
plug
going to
them.
happen.
But I'm a bit. I don't want to jump on the Houghton bandwagon just yet because we don't know who else is going to come.
Well, don't jump too soon, mate. We've got a whole section
of course,
on this.
yeah.
I tell you what, there's a good 12 managers up there on that screen. I'd go for one of them.
Gerard Arteta, Lee Johnson, says Michael Bowen. Ian Wagner comes on and says Arteta could be prized away from Man City. And Christopher O'Callaghan says Gerard, Lee Johnson, Houghton and Jukanovic.
Jukanovic is a good shot. But I think he would want money to spend, and I don't think we can guarantee that, can we?
I don't think so. Playing past the phone here. So then, let's move on. January transfer window. Rajiv Van La Parra.
Who?
and John Obi Mikel. Going out, Grant Ledbetter left for Sunderland. Danny Barth left for Stoke. Harry Chapman left for Blackburn. Connor Ripley left for Preston. And Martin Braithwaite, who we will say no more about, left for Leganes on loan. Good or bad window?
January, apart from Braithwaite, I don't think there was anyone really big left. But there's no one really big came in. So kind of indifferent, really, for me. January.
Mark?
Well, do you know what? I'm going to say it again. I just wish someone, and whether it's Pulis, whether it's Gibson, whether it's Bowser, whether someone at the club, Woodgate, could have just put their arm around Braithwaite, because we know how much of a good player he is. We should have made him the star, like Traore was the star. And Pulis made it his aim to bull him up and say, "This, we know how good this kid's going to be. We need to keep him on the straight and narrow. I've got my arm round him. You know, I'm constantly shouting at him." Why couldn't someone do that to Braithwaite?
I think
he's a World Cup player.
There's no doubt in his talent. I think it's his desire. And I was saying earlier on, I was talking to a lad at work today who's a Sunderland fan about Martin Braithwaite. And when he's on it, he's the best player on the pitch by a mile. But when he's not on it, he might as well not be there. He's a waste of a shirt. And he's more often not bothered than he is bothered. So you can't afford to be carrying a player, for me.
Fair enough. Now, interestingly, on my notes here, we were obviously sat like lemons, Chris and Dave and Paul and Courtney and Joe and everybody else in the studio. Mark, you were here, you were in France, you were in the office.
I was off that Euro tunnel.
You were everywhere but here. You still haven't had your fuel.
No.
You've still got your SO receipt, haven't you?
I've got an SO receipt and I've got a Panini receipt.
And a croissant receipt.
Rumours on the day after the show finished, rumours of players and manager being in the pub since 4:30 on deadline day. Rumours of no money. I think the rumours of no money were backed up in the days following the deadline day events when Tony Pulis confirmed in a press conference that there was no money at the club, there was no money to spend. Did we rightly take that as though there's no money in the club coffers? Or should we have perhaps taken that as in Mr. Gibson does not feel the need to invest during this window? Have we read the situation completely wrong and actually there is money in the coffers?
I think Tony Pulis made that point, didn't he, by saying that the money that Gibson had spent, and let's be honest, let's not beat around the bush. In a roundabout way, Tony Pulis was blaming Gary Monk. He just didn't mention his name. That's all he done. For legal reasons, basically he was saying that we'd spent millions of pounds under Gary Monk and that he didn't think it was right in him asking for more money. Well, that's great, but it didn't get us anywhere.
But
it then comes again round and then he's still not asking for money. If the club, and look, if I'm going to be the bad one to say it, I have to say it. If the club was ambitious enough to be that last place team in the playoffs, they would have spent the money. And John Obi Mikel said it in his press conference when he said, other teams strengthened and maybe we should have done. They were his exact words, maybe we should have done. They only brought him in.
Yeah.
It still doesn't give, that statement still doesn't give any reason as to why we didn't. So whether is it the recruitment team?
Well, it was quite easy that either the club and Tony Pulis both agreed that the money had been already spent.
The point I'm trying to get at is, it is very well documented that Gary Monk spent £50 million. Okay? £50 million, of which we've recouped 45 million in the sales of Adama Traore, Ben Gibson, Patrick Bamford, Fabio and Antonio Barrahan. 44.9 million to be precise. I'm sorry, but 6 million loss is nothing when you've managed to bring in 45 million.
And there's a parachute payment on top of that, and TV rights, which aren't great, but there's still a
and
chunk to go on top
that's why
of that
I'm saying
we'd have ended up in the green.
That's why I'm asking, is it a case of, have we read the situation wrong, the club's skint, or have we misunderstood, miscommunication somewhere? It could even be so far as to say, in January, the board knew that Tony Pulis would be gone at the end of the season. So why give him money to spend on bringing his players in when come June and he leaves, another manager's going to want to come in and bring in his own players? If we allow Tony Pulis to bring 2 or 3 players in January on 3 or 4 year contracts,
in 6
the
months'
new
time,
manager is stuck with those players regardless. So actually, when we look at it like that, is it a good piece of business by the club not to back the manager?
Well, only time will tell on that, Phil. What I will say to you is this. If the rumours are true, and the Gazette Live broke it today to say that basically, you know, he's out of a job come the end of the week, the Boro aren't going to renew it. That was on Gazette Live. Everyone's read that on the phones and on the internet. If that's true, and the Boro come out and tell us that, well, that we'd sort of applaud that as fans and say, well, actually, that was good business acumen. What we might be doing there is giving the club an excuse. We might have just given the club an excuse to come out and say that.
Not that they watch this. Not that anyone at that club are going to watch what we do.
Yeah. Really? But anyway, when was the last time we come out? Anyone come out? And we say it 1,000 times. When's the last time the club come out and talk to the fans? If they'd have come out and
tell you, actually, I put a Facebook post up today, and you know what? I wasn't going to. I'm going to read
Steve
it.
Gibson replied.
It's yeah, wouldn't that be brilliant?
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to have him sat in that chair, wouldn't it?
It's his quote from
Steve Gibson. You have PM.
2 years, and what he says is, let me just find this because now that I need it, it's going to be a pain in the backside. So here we go. If it wants to, now it's saying, haha, Phil, I've put you on the spot. While this is loading, overall, 2 players in, 1 on loan who made, I think, 1 appearance at Newport. The other, John Obi Mikel, who myself and Courtney have seen today. He's put pictures and videos on Instagram of, appears to be him in London, out for a stroll with his daughters, with his family. So he's potentially already gone.
Yeah, I think it's...
He came in as a marquee signing. He went on to captain Boro for the last, I think it was 6 or 7 games, I think it was. Was he a good piece of business for the Boro, Mark?
Well, I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it. Did we get that last 6 spot? No, we didn't. Was it something we needed? I always remember the first day when it broke that we'd signed John Obi Mikel. I think all the words were, oh, we don't need another defensive midfielder.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going around, yeah.
We slagged him off before he'd had a chance to put.
And he came in and he was a Rolls Royce one. He was the best player on the pitch. I mean, for the games I watched him play live, I think there's only a couple where I would probably say he wasn't the best player on the pitch. Randolph's an exception because Randolph's had an exceptional season. But he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a player. So it was exciting for the fans. We sort of got our tails up a little bit and thought, oh, John Obi Mikel, he's a winner. You know,
he's won everything. Yeah, won everything he's ever played in.
I just think
pretty much.
If we'd have probably added, and look, I'm going back to the January transfer year when we were all sat here and I was over in, where was I again? Blackpool,
France.
France.
Paris, yeah.
I just said, you probably need about 2 or 3 to add that bit of spice, which will get us over the line. Yeah. And we said on that very show, we just don't want to finish in that 7th spot and just fall out. And look what's happened. Yeah. We predicted it on here.
So 2016, the year that Boro got promoted to the Premier League, Mr. Gibson said, we're going into this league to compete. The majority of the money will be reinvested to strengthen the team, but we're going into this league to give it a go. That's what he said. Gibson in 2017.
Where have you found these quotes, by the way? Because I don't ever remember the second one. That's a genuine question.
We're going into the league to compete and come straight back up. Hopefully, as champions, we'll invest in the squad and have plenty of money to do that. The day that Boro went back down, before we appointed, I think it was Gary Monk, when he said we're going to smash the league, it's the same interview. This is how we phrased it, and at the end of that, he says we want to smash the league. 2018, nothing's been said, nothing whatsoever, other than now the possibility of this business acumen that they've decided not to spend money because TP they already know is not going to be here at the end of the season.
Joseph Coombs has got brilliant counterpoint to that. He says nobody wants to come out because last time somebody said something, it got quoted for an entire year. So, and he's got a great point there, hasn't he, to be honest?
I absolutely agree with him, right? But, and that's what all of the fans have hung to. They've clung on to.
And don't get me wrong,
we're still doing that because we still haven't seen that.
You asked the question earlier on, is it because we're not invested because we're holding money back for another manager, or because we don't have any money? Are we making up drawing our own conclusions from the little information we've got? It's what football fans do. That's why we're here. Because football fans always try.
We're missing a massive point here, fellas. In February of this year, we still had players at our football club doing interviews saying that we're trying to get automatic promotion. We had the manager saying that it was the playoff was our target. Nobody told the fans what our target was, because Arsenal was still under the impression we were going to try and get automatic promotion. And if anyone sat out there read something different, then they've got better eyes than me, because I read everything. And I'm telling you now, that's where I was coming from. You had Randolph, you had Clayton, you had players like that saying, we still think there's a chance of automatic promotion. Now, you aim for the stars, aim for the moon. If you miss, you hit the stars. We missed everything. And our players,
going for Uranus.
Our players were saying the wrong things because the manager was saying something different. The players were saying something different, and nobody at the club was saying anything.
But that's the point.
Was this the sound bites that we had from the
absolutely,
yeah. Even at that point, it's almost
Randolph,
as if
Tav,
Tony himself.
Tony mentioned something.
Third mic, it's almost as if there wasn't a common goal.
Yeah, I have like an old military phrase, me, and like fans are not like mushrooms. You don't just put us in a dark corner and feed us on shit.
I'm a fun guy.
Do you know what I mean? You need to tell us a little bit, because it's their hard-earned cash what's going into that business.
And that's the point that we spoke about all season. If Mr. Gibson no longer has the money to smash or try and smash the league, come out and tell us. Yeah. We'll do a fucking bag pack for you.
Just want to know.
We will raise some cash.
We'll shake some buckets about.
Don't leave us with that expectation that that's still the end goal, is to smash the league.
Look for reinvestment. It is not going to happen. Other clubs do it. Other club look for, it's a great fairy tale that we've got a hometown chairman, right? And we've said it 1,000 times. He's from the same estate as I'm from. Look. It's a fairy tale that our hometown chairman is from us. He's a Boro fan. He's loved the club all his life. He saved the club in '86 and all. It's a fairy tale. You could make a movie of it. What I'm saying is, fans are not as old as me. So young Joseph there behind that camera goes there. He doesn't know what happened in '86. He doesn't know what Gibson's done to the club. He just wants to see attractive football. He wants to see Boro winning football matches. So does my nephews and nieces who pay their hard-earned money to go. And their mums and dads pay their hard-earned money. They want to see winning football matches. They don't want to see boring football. Now, absolutely. Look.
Amen to that, sister.
Look, do we go back to the Robson days where we can score 3 goals but let 4 in that end because we were defensively inept? No. But what we can do is we can give it a go. And I think if Tony Pulis was to reminisce over his time at the Boro, if he does leave this week, if he was to reminisce over the time he's had at the Boro, 18 months, could he have played more counter-attack of football? Would he have probably got every Boro fan on his side? Amen. Because they would have. No one would even be touting these names up on here. They'd be saying, keep him. Keep him.
Yeah. He's having a go.
Now,
keep him.
So I want to nip back and forth to some of the comments that have come, because a lot have come in. Ibrahim Tanner says, I never rated Mikel, but he was a different class for us at times. Dion Dickerson says, Adama surely worth putting a bid in. Don't know how much Wolves will still owe us for him. Adoma out of contract soon also.
That's a good point. I spotted that.
Ibrahim Tanner comes back on and says, what communication? We were talking about communication at the time. Kieran White's joined us, thank you. Says Claude Puel is a shout out. Joseph Coombs, nobody wants to come out because last time someone did. It's what they quoted. To be fair, Van La Parra was shite at Newport. I don't think he was given the time. I don't think he was put on a game that we were getting beat in horrific sort of playing conditions. I know it's not an excuse, but he's going to say that he's never had a fair crack at a whip.
Sounds like one.
He'll come out, Van La Parra. If Tony Pulis leaves, he'll come out and slay Tony Pulis.
Probably.
He'll say he's wrecked my career at my parent club. He took me up there and didn't use me, and you know.
Yeah. We'd still be in the Premier if Ramirez had been more faithful. Legend. It's not you again.
It is me, mate.
Because he's come on and said Pulis going on Wednesday Heard Gibson is getting married this week.
Many happy returns.
News to us.
Well, I've got an invite.
Dion Dickerson, I'm actually going to block because he's laughing at your fun guy joke.
No. Fun guy out.
Yes!
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 Get him out! I tell you what, I'm going to change my thing on it. I'm going to have him out because I pressed the wrong one.
Do you know what? You all hate me, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Moving on.
He eats all the biscuits, doesn't he?
Moving
him
on.
in as well.
Between Christmas and March, we got beat by Sheffield Wednesday. We drew against
still on with
Derby
this.
again, 1-1.
I'm going to go home and I'm going to beat the wife up.
We got beat
That's not even funny. It's not even vaguely funny.
3-2 by
Kick the
West
dog,
Brom.
baby.
We drew 1-0 with Leeds. We got beat by Sheffield United.
I'm going to go home, just get a bottle of gin.
Brentford beat
Just drown
us.
me sorrows.
Brentford beat us 2-1. Preston beat us 2-1. Villa beat us 3-0. Norwich
Is the
beat us 1-0.
transporter still open?
Bristol beat us 1-0. Swansea beat us 3-1. We hadn't been out of the top 6 until sort of these points. But again, in a time where there was 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 15 games, 40 points to play for, we only managed 14. So again, we've not even hit half.
That's not even. That's
Paul,
not even,
what time's your train?
That's not even one in.
I'm going to jump in front of it.
We're 10 points behind us at one point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Villa changed the gaffer and had a massive change in
No,
fortune.
they didn't, mate. They brought back Jack Grealish,
Yeah.
and Jack Grealish turned the fortunes.
Yeah.
Well, we spoke about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We spoke about that close at the time. You know, when Jack Grealish was out the side, they played side-to-side football. As soon as he came back in, he was the attacking force. You know, hopefully,
Well, yeah,
touch
again,
wood,
it's something we don't
touch
have.
wood,
Yeah.
Lewis Wing in the future is going to do that type of job.
He's one we haven't mentioned when we're talking about transfers, to be fair. Lewis Wing. I know he's kind of. He wasn't a big marquee signing, but he is an addition to the squad.
He is, and unless a massive quote comes into him, the Boro will keep out of him because he'll be on peanuts.
March until the end of the season.
Don't.
We got beat by Norwich, Bristol, Swansea. We beat Bolton 2-0.
Pass that hammer.
I'm going to do myself in with that
We
hammer.
beat Hull.
Live on telly.
The worst suicide in the world.
We beat Hull. We beat Stoke. I think when we'd come out of that 6-game losing streak.
That's the point,
after
mate.
Swansea.
That's the point,
That's
because
the crux of the season.
if you'd have turned two of them into draws, we'd have been in the playoffs now.
Yeah.
We'd have played Leeds the other night, wouldn't we?
We
got
lost
beat,
6
but
on the
we'd have played
bounce. We then went on to win 3 on the bounce. Bolton, Hull, Stoke. We won. We got pumped. We got absolutely pummeled by Nottingham Forest 3-0. We beat Reading 2-1 at home, last home game, and then we beat Rotherham.
See, at that point
That's-
after the Forest game, that was the point when I thought the season's over. We'll clear the decks in the summer and we'll rebuild and we'll start again. Then the club had the audacity to make me believe.
Yeah.
I don't know how they dared do it. It pissed me right off.
we
I was more
managed-
annoyed then
we
than I was on
managed
January the 1st. And
15 points. 15 points out of 27
How
available.
dare they?
So just halfway, half a point a game there.
Paul made a good point on Thursday's show last week. I think we gained the most points, didn't we, out the last 10 games? Just too little too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we look back at 19 points out of 50 available, 14 points out of 40 available, it was actually
Still
our
could be the
mid-season slump that typically only happens around Christmas time, happened in October and lasted right through at the end of February, beginning of March.
It's amazing that
I
one
have,
of
I
our
have missed
longest.
one photograph off there, like, as well. Jason Ainsley from Spenny. He'd come in and kick some rockets up some butts, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Moving on there then.
Would you put him above yourself on the?
As
He'll
we all
probably
know,
come in
we
and give us
lost
a
out
hand.
by a single solitary point at the playoffs. Now, going on with the news today, Mark, you mentioned it earlier
What
on.
news?
Tony Pulis, the Gazette have rumoured
News.
that Pulis isn't going to renew his contract, that he's set to leave. His contract actually is up on the 1st of June.
That's obscene.
Um,
that is.
I love it.
Based upon the recent spat / kiss and make up that the club have been through,
Yeah, the Gazette will be
Gazette,
getting
yeah.
the Gazette
For
will be getting
me-
the tickets took back off him. Yeah.
I think you needed to clarify that there.
it's got to have been a source, a reliable source from in the club.
Well, I think it says on the article, mate.
That
It says like a senior source at the club. It says.
Is that Gibbo? Got a line for you here.
A senior source. What do we mean by senior source? Is that the head steward?
Do you know?
Is it the guy who brings the balti pies in? Is it what was it?
You and these bolts.
The guy who's in charge of the burger microwave.
Yeah.
He needs firing.
Shut up, Chris. It's all about Chris out.
Chris Gate.
Fun guy out. It could be a ploy by the club to bring any interested parties out of the woodwork to say he's on his way. And then that's in a roundabout way, saying, if you're interested, get in touch.
But the season we've just had, Chris, where we've been told there's no money, he's not been able to bring people in. He's tried 3 windows. Are any of these people on the board, other than the guy in the middle left?
He'll be interested, but I'd rather eat my own shoes.
Is he going to be interested?
No.
Yeah.
Would he want to come and manage the Boro knowing that there's no money in the coffers?
No. Well, he said before, they interviewed him they interviewed him in 442 magazine, and he said it was his lifelong dream to be
Mate,
Middlesbrough
I've been
manager.
interviewed on Red Army TV, and I wouldn't take the job knowing that there's no money to spend.
He'd do it. He'd do it because he'd have the ego to think, I'm going to make a difference here.
I'd
he
take the
can't,
job
he's shite.
because
Well, if
there is a couple of players on there. There is a couple of players on there. Just for those if you can't see him, should we just tell them who we've got on there?
Should we go top left
On the
going
board,
round,
yeah. So we've got obviously in the news, haven't we today? Chris Hughton.
the breaking news this morning was that Houghton had been sacked by Brighton.
Yeah.
The breaking news this afternoon
Ungrateful
was
Brighton.
I think it's quite fitting that Chris Houghton's the best picture on this board. All the rest are a bit blurry.
Yeah.
Because I think he's probably if at the very least he's the fans' favourite at the minute. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going
absolutely.
for him,
Yeah. Going on from there then.
Obviously, we broke the news last week that, and I'd read it on a couple of blogs that obviously Mikel Arteta, and I think Pep's as well come out this week and said he would love him.
Pep wants a job.
He'd love him to leave the club.
Yeah.
To gain more experience and come back.
Yeah.
So he's already said it there. So that's an opportunity. Obviously, Steven Gerrard, McLaren's out of a job. But obviously, Karanka, we have a lot of Karanka lovers out there, don't we?
Can we go back and look at these in a bit more depth? Steven Gerrard.
Just orchestrated the massacre of Celtic yesterday. I think
I'm going to again go out on a limb and be quite decisive here and say, for me, I'm not going to say he's a good manager or he's a bad manager. For me, Steven Gerrard is still a bit of an unknown entity because my nana could go and manage Rangers.
So is Frank Lampard.
Well,
both got the same amount of days in management.
No. But what I'm saying is, anyone.
I bet he wishes he took the Derby job.
In my belief, anyone could go to Rangers, pick 11 of their players and destroy the league.
Yeah.
Or at least finish second.
Look, without a doubt, it's going to be a step up for Gerrard to come to the Championship.
So what he's done with Rangers, for me, doesn't necessarily prove that he's a good manager because anyone could do it with Rangers.
He's a winner, though, isn't he?
But and
he's a modern footballer.
As a man,
But what he's had at Rangers is backing of the board.
Yeah.
He's been allowed to bring players in, Jermaine Defoe being one of them.
Yeah. There's talk of Stewie Downing maybe going up there.
Is that going to happen if Gerrard was to come to the Borough?
Oh, I mean, there's lots of links would need to go.
But what you're saying is, he's done it up there, he's doing well up there, but he's gone up there. Rangers have identified him as retiring and gone, he's going to take us forward.
John Barnes
which is why they've taken him there.
John Barnes went to Celtic, had a pretty decent time at Celtic for a year or two.
But they're going to give him everything to make him leave Liverpool and go up there, and B, they want longevity.
And let's be honest, he will be a Liverpool manager in the future.
Can I just point something out as well? You've said Steve McLaren, but that's clearly a picture of Harry Redknapp.
In the jungle.
Karanka, Leo, we've seen a lot about Leo this season.
Yeah.
Fans would like him if not for his passion alone.
I'd love him to have
he would instill passion into players.
Just somebody with passion.
I'd love him to have some sort of role. But there was a post on one of the other pages earlier on, I won't name who it was, but there's people saying, oh, why don't we have, for example, Rav with Leo as assistant? And you think, well, if Rav's the gaffer, he's going to want to bring his own assistant in. You can't say pair these two together. Yeah. So, but you know, the flip side of that is I would love him to have some sort of role at the club.
Juninho, who has recently he
took a job with the Brazil.
He has his own team. That's in the pipeline now because he's taken a quite a senior role with the Brazilian FA, where he's basically head of elite development.
Is he hands-on with the players then, or is he doing a Southgate and starting youth teams?
I think if I read it right, he had to leave his role with the club he's at. Can't remember. Ichuano.
He owns that club, so he is the founder and owner of it. He is the owner of that club.
But he's had to step away to take on this role.
But Deriva has took over the management job at his club.
Right.
But is the role with the Brazilian FA, is it like a Southgate? Is it like an under-20s, under-21s manager?
I think he oversees elite
so it's not
development.
necessarily hands-on with players then. So that for me would say he's probably not ready to be a manager, so
Yeah,
I wouldn't even
yeah.
count him. As much as I love him.
And are we looking at, look, it's great in it going down that route of bringing Janino back and things like that. And look, this will be his 4th, 5th time he's come back to the club.
Yeah.
Rav, I agree a little bit. Look, Rav was a gung-ho player. Stuff the rest of years, I'm scoring goals, and it was great when it happened, but then didn't get on with any of his players. It's nonsensical for me.
His last management role was with Arsenal Kiev in Ukraine. He lasted 4 months.
Yeah, had a fight with the centre half.
He's terrible. Why the people are even asking for him online on social media? Please give your head a shake.
Neil Warnock.
Now, the only thing I'm going to say about Neil Warnock is his interview. I don't know if it was yesterday after the mauling of Man United, but he does come out and say
Is that a drag in the show?
that this season with Cardiff in the Premier League will be his last ever season in the Premier League. He has already said that he will stay at Cardiff next season. So if he's already come out, Cardiff won't have let him come out and make that statement if they weren't happy with the arrangement. So for me, he's got a year there, and Cardiff have a year, if not longer, to try and find a replacement. But that for me rules out, because even if he does come here next season, he's already said that that's his last year in the Premier League.
Absolutely loves the Boro, by the way, doesn't he?
Absolutely, yeah, he does.
Never has a bad word to say about the chairman, the
But
club, the
that
area.
doesn't mean that he won't go to a club in the Premier League as technical director or...
Yeah.
It's just that the last team he manages in the Premier League, his wife has loved it. I believe I've been in Cardiff this season, and that's why they've chosen to stay there again for another year. Of course, we've got Fleming and Woody.
Are we putting these two together?
I think you would probably have to.
I would probably put them together. Yeah, I think you would have a first team coach and an assistant there. But look, it depends where we are with money. There's a couple of yes men on there, by the way.
I think somebody's looked at that picture and said, "Is that Donald Trump?"
Yeah.
From a distance with a distorted picture, yes.
I think anyone shouting for these two, for me, I think it's more a sentimentality thing rather than a.
Well, I think
Janino's
the same, isn't it?
Same decision, yeah. And then we've got Jamie Pollock.
Yeah, what you're doing there is you're doing a disservice to me and making Jamie look like a good coach. Look, I showed you the formation. What would have got us in the?
Did you apply for the Darlington job?
We're not allowed to talk about that.
You under an NDA?
Look, I showed you a formation would have got us in the playoffs. Everybody on the other side of that camera agreed with me. Was watching that night.
This is my point. You could have done that with Rangers and come second.
Okay. Undoubtedly, I could have done it with Rangers.
That's why.
With my eyes shut.
That's why, for me, I don't think Steven Gerrard's. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good coach, but for me, I don't think what he's done is proved.
All I would say to you, you've got a parking lad who's the chairman of the club. Install me. I'll kick your Deadwood out, and I'll get you in the playoffs next year. Minimum. Minimum. You heard it first.
It wouldn't surprise. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, it wouldn't surprise me if Pulis did leave and the stories are true.
And you have said.
No, that would surprise me. What role would you get for me?
You'd want a
what
job,
role
wouldn't
would
you?
I have?
I knew he'd want a job.
Water boy.
What you like at making tea?
Yeah, well, you've had a couple tonight, so you tell me.
Yeah, I'll stick with the water.
Class. It wouldn't surprise me if whoever. Yeah, no.
I love how you just. Yeah, whatever.
It wouldn't. I'm a professional, Phil. It wouldn't surprise me if.
Got a degree,
Whoever took the job wasn't on this board. And I'm not talking about Ian Holloway.
Yeah, there are many.
He used to talk about Ian Holloway, and then two
managers.
nutters who he always goes on about who throw water bottles in changing rooms. What they call the
Cowley brothers.
Cowley brothers.
I think technically they're brilliant managers because they don't spend a lot. But look at the successful managers, and there's a lot of German managers coming over. There's going to be someone in the Dutch league or the German league. I think someone said on Thursday night. Jurgen Klinsmann has said he wants to throw his hat back in the ring and come to England. And he's going to come to the Championship. No Premier League team is going to take a punt on
America.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, Yapstam, Reading. I'm not saying him as an option, but
you are.
He was
tonight,
no.
Tonight on the Facebook page, he's going to go. Actually,
what I mean is he was a big, well-known international player. Went to a Championship club, same sort of thing. What are you doing?
Nothing.
There are a lot of sort of suggestions that we didn't put on. To be fair, we have to appreciate. This is Mark's first attempt at a studio screen.
Yeah, I just couldn't get my picture off.
And you've done all right, mate. You've done all right. A few of these comments coming in. Joseph Coombs says, every time you thought we'd turn a corner, Something came along and killed our momentum.
It's called Tony Pulis, mate.
Ibrahim Tanner says, let's keep it tight and see where we are after an hour. That's what was happening. Joseph Coombs come back on and says, what baffled me is Pulis played the same team at Swansea and Villa away that had previously been battered against Villa at home.
I think part of that's going to be that we don't have a plan B. We don't have a squad.
Somewhere in that run of games, he actually came out and said, my only regret at this club is not playing Tav enough.
Yeah.
And then proceeding to
put him on the bench.
Maybe he was talking about, I didn't let Tav play in the reserve game or in training.
I mean, listen, naturally, we're football fans. We always sit here. Every football fan in the world, all you guys at home are going to sit there and think, I could have done better than that.
Up now. Chris in, fun guy in. But undoubtedly, the squad's been there that could have played in a different way to how we played. Not necessarily better. I'm not saying we could have smashed the league if we played Tav every game, but playing the same games that weren't getting us the results, weren't getting us the wins, and then we lost 6 on the trot. You think, why aren't we playing a different?
I agree with
way?
one point you just made there, because all I'll say to you is George Saville, attacking midfielder, we bought him.
Yeah.
Mo Besic brought him in, he was attacking midfielder, brought him in on loan. McNair, attacking midfielder. Clayton was bought as an attacking midfielder, right? Downen could have used a hell of a lot more if it wasn't because of the contract wrangle. Yeah. And then, by the way, when we did sort his contract out, he sat on the bench for most of the time. You know, Tav, we could have used a lot more. That's how we could have changed that squad up and got more offensive.
Yeah.
What it was is he was scared to do that. He thought he had enough in the bag to stay in the top 6. And it's come and bit him on the bum.
Yeah. Funny enough, Ibrahim Tanner said, would Gerrard want cash? Yes, I think I alluded to that anyway. If he's going to want to leave Rangers that are backing him to the hilt, he's going to want
petrol money for coming down, and you don't get that here. I mean, I went all the way to France, never got a petrol money.
I think the one thing he could bring with him is Tav's brother.
We haven't seen enough of Tav to make a sound judgment on him yet. What we've seen is good.
No, Tav's brother.
Yeah.
Coming from Rangers. He's Rangers captain, plays fullback. We need a fullback.
Mate, we brought,
he's got
Chris Boyd,
it is
Willow Flood. All from the Scottish League, and it never happened.
I'm my own point there, yeah. What is it? So, one of the lads said it's a farmers' league.
Joseph Coombs says only one man can save us, Deriva.
Alan
White says...
Deriva he's a good shout.
Alan White says, I wouldn't want Juninho as manager. Too many fickle fans. He would be hero to zero in no time.
That's a very good point. He'd ruin his legacy.
We've done it to Tony Mowbray, didn't we? We sort of
Yeah, not just managers, we've done it to players as well before they've even pulled on a shirt.
That's a good point, actually. There's a couple of people online saying Mowbray's coming back. I don't know whether it's unfounded or what.
Fans always long for that sort of stuff, don't
they?
We killed him last time,
if he was to come back and...
I heard Bruce Rioch on as well.
You hit the nail on the head when we talked about him earlier on in the season, that he did a lot for the club, and Pulis has said it as well, did a lot for the club that went unnoticed. He's doing a pretty decent job at Blackburn, again, not with a lot of money on board as well.
Gents, final comment. Ibrahim Tanner there says, what's Peter Davenport doing these days?
So nobody, he'd probably get a game in our side.
Going in the chippy, isn't he?
Gents, we need to round it up. One thing we've not discussed, and I'm not too fussed because we can probably cover it on Thursday's season roundup, is the Downing saga.
Don't.
Here we go.
Ruined the season.
Strap yourself in. We're off for it.
Ruined the season for us because we were left in limbo as much as the player was himself.
If he'd have played those games, put one cross in, and we got one goal and got a win.
But even when he was eligible to play, Chris, after he said he would play him every game if he could. He's then given that waiver. You can play him in the remaining games.
Downlands when he first
put him on the bench. He didn't use him when he probably should have done. And now there's talk that there's a 1-year contract extension in the offering. After everything that not only the club have put Stewie through, but the club have put us as fans through, is that not an appalling piece of business, Mark?
Look, you know my feelings on it. I mean, it took a player, and it's easy for people, us as fans, to sit there and go, he's made thousands out of football. You'd play for nothing. You'd make him look an hero and all that. He's still got a mobile phone bill. He's still got a mortgage. He has, hasn't he?
I love that. That's what you're thinking about, mobile phone bill.
I happen to know for a fact he's on pay as you go.
Well, there you go then. What I'm saying is, it's like saying to me now, go to work this month for free. Why?
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't, would you?
You just wouldn't, would you? So he's got to, otherwise, they do that to every player. Every single player's contract, they do it. They make Stewie like a milestone and say, well, he's done it, so why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
You know.
And then you know, he's going to feel like shit because it makes him a not an anti-hero in a
It
way,
then took
doesn't it?
Stewie to go to the club and go, look, just knock it on the head. Just pay me what you pay me. I want to play.
It's
and
the-
then didn't
yeah.
play him.
It's the player that's gone in and said, look, fine, do whatever, just let me play. And then he's on the bench anyway.
Our chairman and Mr. Bowser were happy to let him sit on that bench.
Still picking up a wage.
Yeah, still picking up a wage and not using him to get us in the playoffs. I'm sorry, it's bad
So
business.
it turns what we
there's
said
been-
earlier
yeah.
on about actually is it a good piece of business from the club not to back Tony in the January transfer window because they already know he's going to go at the end of the season. It turns that back on its head because then it does look like that Gibson and Bevington and Bowser are the bad guys for not allowing Stewie to play when he should have
There's
played.
been some,
He's
there's
had a
been some,
ride him, that Bevan, like,
there's been some baffling business.
Baffling
this year
business
and
by
last
the
year.
Borough. Yes.
I
A
mean,
bit of alliteration.
that
I like that,
alliteration
yeah.
there,
I like that.
get it.
I mean, he's had an absolute ride, that Bevan, like.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Head of recruitment, are you joking? Are you joking? It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
no, but we might.
You're
Yeah, he
joking,
could
aren't
be
you?
head of recruitment. Mate, he might be concourse recruitment.
Well,
He
He
might
needs
be
to
the
get some-
guy bringing people in on stewards. And
Tell you what, whoever he is for the burgers,
yeah, wait till I see my complaint land
Oh,
on his desk Monday
I've got an
morning.
8-page complaint letter for you.
8, mate. I'll add to it.
tell you what, though,
Um,
mate, I bet he's on over 100 grand a year.
Yeah, if not
Yeah.
more. Let me just see if I've not wrapped anything up. Prem interest. Tav, yes. Tav's been flouted around. There's a few Premier League clubs looking at him apparently. Would it be too early for him to go in this development phase of his career?
Listen, I touched on Tav. I didn't touch Tav before you say anything, but I touched on Tav last week, maybe the week before,
It's
when
a
I
good
said,
thing this isn't going out on telly.
yeah,
You beating your wife.
he's
You
not.
touching Tav.
Yeah, I don't really beat my wife.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's shocking. That.
She beats me.
If he were to go this summer, I think we'd be It's whether you look at it as, are we losing a potentially good player or are we losing a good player? I don't necessarily think we're losing a good player. We're losing potentially a good player. Because we as Boro fans, knowing some of the players that we've brought through from the youth team, as soon as we get a sniff of someone being good, they're instantly the best player in the world, whether they've proved it or not.
Jo-
And for
Joseph-
me, he's done
Because
all
we're trying
right.
to make some money out of him.
Joseph
Exactly.
Coombs made a point, and he's actually, it says message retracted. I didn't even know you could do that on this YouTube thing. But in fact, remember what he's just put something like, mathematicians are still trying to figure out the ad language ordeal.
Yeah.
For a brilliant piece of business by the Borough.
Jamie Delgano's adamant that he works in one of the pizza shops near him.
Defo.
He's absolutely
gee
adamant
whiz.
he does.
Defo.
Dalgano looks like Gary Monk in disguise.
Yeah, but you can't fight sharks.
Good
What-
evening, Holgate
what-
Ender.
You
What's,
cannot fight sharks, can you?
You can't fight sharks.
what next for Borough? What next? This is the last question on my notes, and then she can't kick my head in.
A lot of it is going to depend on whether Pulis stays and whether he goes.
Well, let's
And
take it
if
as he's
good-
going. If the Gazette have broken the news, he must be going.
Well,
They're not
a
gonna
lot of it's going to
not
depend.
risk
If the
this.
Gazette have broke the news, he must be
No,
going.
but they're not going to risk this relationship with the club again after what happened last time.
I mean, I love Anthony Vickers, but has he got it spot on this time? Anthony, give us a bell in.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to depend on whether it's one of these guys or someone else who takes that seat. Whoever takes that seat is going to decide.
who do you want?
Yeah, but you're available.
Who do you want? Out of all of them on the board and more, who do you want?
I'd take it now.
I'd be happy with Chris Houghton and Neil Warnock.
What about Ivan Yafubu?
Who would
Yeah,
I be
yeah,
happy
Who
with?
would you
Fubu.
have? Who would you back with? You can't pick yourself. You can't nominate. It's like election. This. You can't nominate yourself.
I'll tell you what, if I was to nominate myself, I would have about 2.
But you're going to make it big on the X Factor, so you
I'd-
can't take.
I
this
will.
job.
I will be good on the X Factor. Do you know what? I don't know. I'd rather have a younger manager, and I don't mean that derogatory, but I want a younger manager who's plays a younger style of
Ideas
football.
and-
Cowley
Younger
brothers.
ideas.
You want the Cowley brothers, don't you?
I don't want
Chris,
the
please,
professionals in
shut up.
the Cowley brothers. What I want is I want someone who's got if we could mix that up now, I want someone with the passion of Leo,
Yeah.
right, and someone who's got
Really do for Warnock.
fresh ideas like Arteta, and maybe
The head of your father.
yeah, with the grit of the Borough steel from me. If we can mix them three together, we'd be in the Premier League knocking on Man City's door.
If either of these two got the job, I'd be happy. I'd probably be happier with Gerrard than I would be with Arteta.
Do you know,
But
for me,
I think he's probably got the discipline that we need.
everybody on the board there, I don't think for me, it's either going to be Houghton or it's going to be Arteta.
Oh yeah.
I can't, I wouldn't want to I don't want to come to your club and then you walk out of it. mate.
What you're doing
Do you
is,
know?
mate, what you're doing is you're covering your bases because what you're thinking is I can't talk on Red Army TV if I get that job.
Gents,
You prioritise it.
for
What
the
about
last...
Ian Holloway?
No,
Oh.
shut up, mate. For the last time, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure this season. We have been renewed next season, so you will see the Red Army Ramblers again on Red Army Social. We're still not sure on Chris.
Yeah. Well, I've
send us a message.
sorted my contract
Chris,
out. I've sorted
Chris
yours
out.
out.
I might be going to the
My
Boro.
contract's sorted.
Mine's sorted.
Dave's emailed me last week.
I'm going to Boro Fan TV on a Bosman.
Oh. Never heard of him.
We get bollocked if we say that.
You're the one forcing me out the door.
And on that bombshell, Dave Roberts, send him.
Thank you very much for joining us. We will be back next season. Red Army Social, Red Army TV, Red Army Radio will be launching into a headset.
Coming in
near
your
you.
ears.
Red Army Radio.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you again next season.
Hitting the back of the net.
Sorry.
No.